Hi, Jambi here. I haven't done a YouTube video for a while, and honestly, for years, I've been really like to get more into YouTube. And I feel extra compelled today to set up my backdrop and to have a speak to the camera, because I have really been lost in my direction with Instagram and being super reluctant to get onto TikTok, just feeling like a little bit of social media burnout after quite a few years of really playing that game. A bit disenfranchised by it now, and I sort of reached the goal that I wanted to reach, and I used to have a lot of fun with it, and I used to really enjoy engaging in the community and the conversations, and in the cycling world. But especially since moving to rural New South Wales and being more isolated from the cycling community, I really felt like I had less energy for the online space. It's a complicated sort of feeling because I had endless energy. It was something that just came really easily for me. I was always really enjoyed it, enjoyed the editing, the being able to walk throughout my day, having the eye for a photo that I wanted to take that I thought would look good on the internet. For some reason, it just really spoke to me. Loved it. Now, for reasons that I would like to sort of go through, I really struggle with it, and I've sort of lost my creativity and motivation for expressing myself on the internet. But with the downside, or my lack of interest in expressing myself on Instagram, or it's not really lacking the interest to express myself on the internet. It's really just finding TikTok and Instagram not really the place for me to engage in the kind of conversations that I really like to engage in. So anyways, this YouTube video is just me sort of speaking to the camera and explaining my life at the moment, and how I've sort of found myself in the position that I have found myself in, and giving a bit of a life update, I guess. Whenever I sit down to make YouTube videos, I sit down and I talk to the camera like this, and I've probably done this, I don't know, 20 times over, and not this particular video, but I sit down and I try to talk to the camera multiple times, and I just never end up uploading it, or I want to restart and I want to say something different or express it differently. And so I get to the point where I just I probably have created a lot of YouTube videos that just never go anywhere, and it feels really fruitless to spend my time in that way. So I sort of tap in and then I give up, and then I tap back in and then I give up. But yeah, so I tried writing a newsletter, which I sent out quite a few, but the problem is that I'm having a really tough year, which is great. Not great, but toxic positivity is that all of these tough things that come through my life, I'm absolutely well aware that on the other side of them is good and glory, and sort of live by the idea that it's what you do when the times are hard that makes the biggest difference to your life overall. And I really feel like there's sunshines and rainbows at the end of this sort of hard patch. And with the e-newsletter, I just felt like I wanted to be really melancholic, a bit depresso in what I was writing, and it's not the energy that I want to put out into the world. I really feel like I've always benefited from being happy and energetic online, and I really like that. And any normal person would know that, of course, everybody's life is difficult, and I just don't feel like I've had to present that to people on the internet. And I just didn't want to do that in the newsletter, and people were catching on. People were replying with the newsletter, saying things like, just like catching the tone. And I was like, yes, you've read the tone correct, but I didn't like spreading out that tone. So kind of stopped doing that. And now going into YouTube, there is sort of like a long timeline or like process that it's taken for me to sort of get to this idea that maybe YouTube is a nice place for me at the moment. Because one, yeah, I'll go through why. But I just don't know, like, you know, and I get what happens when I go through these videos is that, and when I start and I sit down to the camera, I'm like, nobody cares about this. And nobody really wants to hear this story. And I sort of lose myself halfway through a story or an explanation about what my life is like at the moment. And it's just like, nobody cares. And then I sort of lose my way. So I'm just going to go about this YouTube channel as if nobody cares, and that's fine. I want to talk to the camera, I want to give like life updates because I think it helps me close some gaps and spread my thought process out in a video. And it also, like, for people that have been following along for many years online and my story online, I've always sort of like had this really open, this is what my life is like, this is where I am, this is what I'm doing, this is like how things are at the moment. And I've really stopped that in the last probably 2 years. And I feel like there's a big gap, and I like the storyline. I want to keep the storyline going. Even for me, looking back at it, I look at my private Instagram accounts and I've sort of stopped doing them as well. And when I do look at these tiny little moments that I've put out into the, like, an Instagram account that has just like 100 followers, and I love that is there for me to look back on. For nobody else, it can have no likes, and I'm like, great photo, I love that. And the memory triggering for me is great. So with this YouTube channel, yes, I'm going to be going through some more of my bike life and like, but I also wanted to put out some videos for me to look back on about what my life has been like. So I guess it's it's like a half diary, half stuff that I think will be useful for people who are riding bikes like I like to ride bikes. So I know I've skipped around a little bit, but I want to go back a little bit. This 2-year mark that I have in my head, it really aligns with me moving up to rural New South Wales and moving in with my boyfriend Henry. Bit of a drastic life change, and I would like to sort of dissect on that a little bit because I haven't really spoken much about it. And for somebody that is like detail minded in like, detail minded sort of gives off the wrong impression, I think. Because I'm not detail minded. I'm like, you know, I like to sort of gloss over everything, but when it comes to like my experience, I am quite detail minded. So what's a good example? Like, I mean, I'll give an example for like why this living with my boyfriend has made a big impact for me in the way that my mind is working at the moment. I have always, like many 20-year-olds, really like had myself and what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be at the forefront of my life choices, and never really having to properly, or not having the ability to properly prioritize somebody else. And while I've been in plenty of relationships before, really not giving more than I was receiving. or those dynamics have always been slightly different to this dynamic, which makes sense, different person. So I sort of stepped out of a role where I really was just living my own life, making my own money, not having to really think much about somebody else, how my actions are affecting them, how I can best sort of structure my day to also benefit them. It was an extremely selfish, maybe not selfish, but just like very free individual experience. And then now, my partner Henry and I live together by ourselves on a cattle farm in rural New South Wales, about 40 kilometres south of the next town. And there's so many things in where I live that are like, I identify them as micro challenges, even though there's like plenty of positives, and there's many things that sort of make my life easier, but there probably is more fresh, new micro challenges that have been difficult to sift through, as well as being in a relationship, as well as finding myself in a really isolated rural town, which has like an aging population, which has limited places to go out and socialize. I now travel half an hour into work every day, and I work in an office that is out of town, that is isolated and by myself. So how that's different from when I was living in Sydney and I was in the shop, like the storefront shop. I woke up and I went to work, and it was filled with a lot of little interactions that kept my social ability up high, and the easy access to going cycling with somebody or even without somebody, but still having and being surrounded by cyclists. That, like, the difference between this and that has been a really big impact in my life, and I've sort of struggled to find the motivation to continue to cycle in the way that I was, especially in my 20s. And when I was younger, I was really determined to not let the weather dictate my life. There's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing style attitude. And while I do fundamentally believe that is true, I live in the northern tablelands, which is high altitude for Australia and experiences very low temperatures in winter and pretty mild temperatures in summer. And the summer is quite short and the winter is quite long. So over the last 2 years, while maybe at the beginning I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll cycle in the cold, whatever. But over 2 years, always having to get over the micro barrier of the weather and the cold, then being faced with the monotony of riding by myself, then the added monotony of riding the same roads, because to get anywhere new is at least an hour's drive away, to mountain bike parks, to fresh roads, to bike clubs, anything like that is like an hour and a half away. So all of these things have really sort of closed in quite slowly to find myself having quite a difficult year this year, because I now am a bit starved for social interaction. I'm a bit starved for motivation and creativity. I feel like I'm a bit starved for being involved in the cycling community, not involved in the conversation anymore. If I'm going out cycling, I'm doing it by myself. I'm going touring, I'm doing it by myself, and I sort of lacking fresh eyes and excitement because of that. The first year I moved up, I was gung-ho, and I think that was because I was carrying with me all this energy that I had from living in the city or being surrounded by a cycling community. I was carrying it all with me into this year, and it lasted such a long time. And then this year I've really felt the lack of community. And yeah, so I just feel like YouTube is a nice place for me to start spilling my guts about things and telling people who are interested or not interested about what it's like running my business here, what I'm doing, how I'm like managing these like micro challenges and yeah. So I mean, I guess this is an introduction to me in my head wanting to do a few YouTube videos a week. And while I am really excited about doing that, I also worry. I'm just excited about doing that, I guess, because I've been coming into work and I like have all these things that I need to do, and my list is really long and my emails are getting like, you know, banked up, and there's all these things that I need to do that are simple tasks. I'm just finding myself stunted to be able to do them. Not sure, like, you know, why that's happening, and I'm assuming that I'm having some sort of like depressive period where I'm lacking motivation and my sort of normal self is, you know, just waiting on the sidelines for me to figure out what it is that's going on for me. And yeah, so I think YouTube could be a really nice place for me to do these little diary entries. But I'm also going to do some product stuff and some more like, not how-tos, because everyone knows how to do everything these days, and there's all that how-to, but stuff that I think is interesting that I would like to talk to more people about. And the idea of like trying to make something super engaging for Instagram in the short attention span, and even TikTok, I just don't want to do that. I just would like to, maybe it's my old age. I guess it could be maturing. But something a little bit more tangible, a little bit more tactile, which I think YouTube sort of is. And while, yeah, I just think it's a little bit more tactile. But anyways, so after this video, I'm going to be going through some mail that I got from, I honestly have never been properly corrected. Is it Arn or is it Aaron? I really need to ask, but I'm going to do this video after this about what he has sent me. He's an industrial designer from the US, and he's been making good stuff for a long time, and he's a real pro, and he's sent me some goodies, and I'm really excited to show them to you. So if you got through this 20-minute video, that's pretty impressive. When I look back at it, I'm excited to see whether it makes sense or whether it's really scattered. And you never know, I might, yeah. The evolution, I guess something that does fill me up with a little bit of confidence in this is that Jam's distro and my like self-employment has been modified so much over the last sort of 5-6 years that I've been doing it properly, and every instance of me trying something new, every instance of me trying to keep it moving, it benefits in some way. Like, it is interesting in some way, or the growth that happens for it is interesting in some way. So I'm just sort of telling myself that just do what seems to come naturally. And what isn't coming naturally right now is how I've been doing business for the past couple of years. It's become stagnant for me, it's become arduous, and it's become uninteresting. So I'm just going to go with what seems to be coming naturally to me. And I definitely need to be talking more to people, and I definitely need to be engaging more in something that is more tactile. That's it. Thanks for watching.